Hi, my name is Eric, and I want to welcome you to episode 3 of Our Story, Our Time online. I'm excited for tonight's episode because Ryan Fitzpatrick and I got to travel up to where I was born and raised, Jay County, Indiana, to meet with Randy Davis, the founder of A Better Life, Brianna's Hope. I am here in Red Key, Indiana, with the one and only Randy Davis, the founder of A Better Life, Brianna's Hope. How are you doing over there, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, Eric. Thanks to both you guys for coming today, giving us this opportunity.
Oh, we're glad to be here. This is the first week out of the stay-home order, so we're being sure to still social distance, but this is a big enough sanctuary here. I think we're just fine.
I think we're going to be safe.
So for those who have never heard of A Better Life, Brianna's Hope, I mean, this is a recovery effort that is now expanding all across the state of Indiana. It's now sweeping into parts of Ohio, and there's just story after story of life change and recovery that I hear from different chapters around the state. I'm so proud that it was launched and founded in my home county, Jay County, where we are today. Can you tell people who have maybe never heard of it before, where are you and what is A Better Life, Brianna's Hope?
Oh, yeah. Number one, we like to refer to ourselves as a recovery movement. We're fluid in that sense. We can tweak, we can change. We don't compromise, but we can reach out to that new need or deal with things like this COVID-19 that we're all having to deal with without it destroying us. So we're pleased with that. We are presently 42 chapters. That's 36 in Indiana, 6 in Ohio. We're in 23 Indiana counties, 4 Ohio counties. Our goal, we refer to it as 92 by 22. By the end of the year 2022, we want to have a presence in all 92 Indiana counties. It's a big goal, but I'd rather take the risk and not get there than not take the risk and wish we would have. And the support from the community, actually the state of Indiana, has been far more than we could have imagined. We've been able to speak to over 21,500 K through 12 and staff in schools. We've sent 1,100 to treatment. We have an attendance of over probably 1,050, but it's hard to tell now because we've had a presence on the internet, and like we'd had before, due again to the pandemic. We have 16 chapters who are doing online meetings of some type, which has that's been a blessing to us, and we hope it's a blessing to others as well.
That's great. One thing I wanted to do tonight is I wanted people to get to hear the story from the founder in the community that this was launched out of. And this is such a powerful story. One of my best friends from high school who, you know, Eric Hartvig is a producer at PBS and WFYI and made a 10-minute segment on the story of Brianna's Hope. And we want to run that tonight because I think that he did such a great job of telling the story of why this organization was started in the first place. And so we're going to go ahead and run that now. And then I'm going to ask you a few questions after that.
All right. Thank you. It's an awesome piece.
Before the opioid epidemic was called an epidemic, small towns in the Midwest started to realize that there was a drug problem reaching into their communities. The breaking point for Jay County, Indiana, happened in the summer of 2014, when a young woman named Brianna DeBattiste went missing.
Brianna was a heroin user. We knew this. The family had explained that she had suffered with addiction for some time.
It can happen to any family. It doesn't matter.
There were some days we worked 24 hours a day, sometimes 48 hours. We was all up, actually physically up, working this case.
And hers started just going to parties with friends is the way I understand it.
While the search for Brianna was underway, many already assumed the worst. Others said it was bound to happen to a drug user like her.
Some people were coming up and saying, well, I don't understand why you're out looking for this person. She's a druggie.
It's just another druggie. There's a history there, or why should I care? Almost exactly 10 years before, there was an incident where a 2-year-old had wandered into a cornfield and got lost in the middle of the night. The community just rose up at like 1 to hunt for this toddler, this innocent child wandering through the cornfield, and found the boy. She'd wandered off in a different way.
Officer Shannon Henry was in charge of the search for Brianna, an effort that came to a tragic end after nearly 3 months of searching.
Brianna disappeared in June of 2014. We found her Labor Day, same year. She overdosed at some point, and someone dropped her body in the woods.
We always hoped that maybe she was somewhere, and had been using a lot of drugs and would come back to us. Just a nightmare to think that she had laid out there all that time while we were searching for her. And she was there, and no one found her. It was really hard.
No one was arrested in connection with Brianna's death. Her family still struggles with the unanswered questions.
Someone knows and could tell us, and it's kind of torment you if you think about it, because we don't know what happened.
I thought there'd be a big weight lifted off my shoulders, and it didn't feel like that. I'd made up my mind that we was probably going to find her deceased when we did find her, but the weight wasn't lifted off my shoulders. It was how do we address this now?
This tragedy inspired one man to do something. After presiding over Brianna's funeral, Pastor Randy Davis established Brianna's Hope in Red Key, a self-help group building a support network for the area, connecting people with health professionals, even if that meant driving them down to Indianapolis for treatment. He was inspired by a writing found in Brianna's personal belongings.
We found it during the time she was missing. Please help me to do the right thing and to show people that I am not a bad person, inside or out.
And help make me, Lord, to get through this disappointment again and show I make mistakes, but who doesn't?
I don't do it to do wrong. I do it because I feel I have no other choice.
I want a better life, Lord. I do.
It was obvious after her disappearance and her death that this community, this area needed help. Most of the folks that we deal with either have inadequate insurance for the kind of help they're seeking or no insurance. Everybody was wanting something, but nobody knew what to do. So I figured even a bad start's better than no start. Do not let a mistake define who you are. We've been able to help over 400 folks get into some sort of treatment, rehab, different forms and different ways, and we're just simply seeing a change.
In rural areas like Jay County, getting the right treatment can be tricky. Area hospitals are struggling to keep up.
In a smaller community, obviously your resources are a little bit more limited than in a more urban area.
In our community, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who need services, and the recruitment of the qualified professionals is quite difficult. There's definitely more of a motivation to live in the more urban communities.
It's an uphill battle, and I think people are realizing it's a little bit more difficult than they thought. One evening this past summer, we had 11 individuals show up in our ER over a period of less than 4 hours, all experiencing an overdose. That puts a dramatic impact on our staff. We only have one physician in our emergency department, and it also came into question, do we have enough of the drug Narcan to help bring these people back out of their overdose? We've since bolstered that supply, and we work with other hospitals in case we have that large event. But this is disaster planning that we hadn't seen before.
Jay County, Indiana is in the top 20 for highest overdose rates per capita in the state. Neighboring counties have similar rates. These numbers are still rising since Brianna's death. Addiction treatment experts recommend regular counseling and, in many cases, medications such as methadone or buprenorphine, known by the trade name Suboxone. Providers of these treatments are hard to find in rural areas. There are no doctors prescribing the medications in Jay County, and opioid treatment programs, the clinics that offer medications for addiction, are pretty far away. Indiana has been expanding access to opioid treatment programs since 2016, from 14 to now 19 treatment centers in the state. New legislation, if passed, would allow even more.
There's a need for ongoing long-term treatment, not just in a rehab or in a facility, but also outpatient, also perhaps medication, and also support groups. There's a role for everybody in this.
Partnerships between organizations like Brianna's Hope and care providers get more people in the door. Pastor Randy has personally taken people to appointments at treatment centers.
We're there to walk with you as far as you'll let us. We're not going to walk ahead and pull you behind and push you, but we'll walk side by side with you.
After 25 years of preaching, Davis is stepping down from the pulpit in Red Key to focus more on his newest congregation.
I've been battling addiction for 27 years of my life. There's been several times where I woke up on the bathroom floor and don't know how long I lay there, you know. Narcan has saved me. I've overdosed over 9 times probably. I didn't want to live that way anymore. I wanted to get help. It was a life or death situation for me. They paid for me to go to my first part of rehab to get me into Harbor Lights, and I have to say that was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I thought I would use until I die.
In 10 days, I will be a year and a half clean, 18 months. There's a whole lot that goes into getting clean and staying clean. What people don't realize is when you get clean, you have to stay clean. So you have to work at staying clean. Before I went to jail, there was nothing. I didn't know of anybody saying, hey, you ready to go to a meeting? You know, broadcasting it like it's, you know, a party that I would have went to with drugs. Instead, it's a party with people recovering and food, and, you know, it's great. It's a great time, and if it wasn't for this meeting, I would be dead.
Brianna's family finds comfort in the fact that people are getting help because of her.
She always wanted to help people. I know she would be happy that so many people that she knows and people she didn't know at all are getting help through this group. It would mean a lot to her. If something like this would have been available for her, it could have been different maybe.
Wow, that is such a powerful story. Maybe that's the first time some of our viewers here have heard about Brianna's Hope. I'm so glad they get to see the behind-the-scenes story. So you were a pastor for 35 years before you started this effort.
That's right. As I was getting near retirement, I found out retirement wasn't going to be just sitting around for certain. I didn't want it to be. This has been a drive and a goal, and the situation came about with Brianna's disappearance, her subsequent death, and the creation of A Better Life, Brianna's Hope. And it's just been the kind of Holy Spirit adrenaline I've needed to keep moving forward.
Wow. Well, it has helped members of my family and my friends. I couldn't tell you how grateful I am that you took the leap of faith and just the sacrifice that you've put in to launch this movement, because I've benefited from it. And here we are in the church that you were a pastor of.
That's right.
And now you have your meetings in this church?
Yes. One of the chapters meets right here where we're seated. So that's a neat thing to continue that legacy.
Yeah. What was that like for you, stepping into this new season of life, to go from hanging out with, all the good Christians to hanging out with people who have been, struggling with a heroin addiction? And how did the church look at you when you did that?
Oh, that was an interesting transition. I've never been one that's been bothered much by public opinion. And it wasn't such that the church hassled me in any way, shape, or form. I just don't think they got it. A lot of people didn't get it around here until Brianna's disappearance, and that put a face on addiction that you can no longer deny. The folks came into support and an understanding that was higher than what I expected. Oh, there were the doubters and the scoffers around about, but if you don't have that, you're not doing a lot. So I'm okay with that too. But having the opportunity and the privilege to meet the people I've met that some people don't want to spend any extra time with has been a privilege for me. An education, it's challenged me spiritually, mentally, physically, and relationally. It's been as big a blessing as I've ever had.
For me, Randy, when I first heard about the opioid epidemic affecting my hometown, my home community, I was just so surprised because there wasn't really heroin in the schools and things when I was in high school or junior high, so it was very surprising. Wow, what did it look like to be on the front lines of that when that really started taking off here in Jay County?
Well, the stigma was incredible, and that's something we've worked to help change and alleviate, and we've had good progress. Sure, it's still there. It's always going to be there, and I get that to a point. But in the beginning, there were so many who they had no idea that we had the problem that we had. And following on the heels of Brianna's situation, we were able to open minds and hearts. And people were able to step out of their own darkness and almost raise their hand and say, hey, I've got a problem. Can you help me? It gave permission to be honest and transparent. It gave permission to say, I'm struggling with an addiction, whereas before they'd have to hide it, which would only make it worse.
Yeah. You know, so one of the hopes with this show, Our Story, Our Time, is I feel like a lot of people, they're maybe new to a recovery show. You know, maybe their family hasn't been directly affected by this. And so maybe they're just on the outside getting educated on this story. And I don't just mean the story of A Better Life, Brianna's Hope, but the story of Indiana's, been struggling with a overdose epidemic like the rest of the nation. And we've been hit really hard. And so they're just learning about what's happening and they're showing up to that conversation maybe to the first time. I'd like to ask you, what part can someone who maybe hasn't been directly affected by this, what part could they play to help their community come back from this and to help the families who have been affected?
That's a powerful question, Eric, and one that's very important. Number one, recognize that just because you don't recognize, it doesn't mean the problem's not there. Realize that people have their struggles. We all do. Put down your coffee for 3 days and see what your attitude is, okay? Or me put down my diet pop. I know 3 days later I'm not going to be a happy camper and I'm going to be tough to deal with. That's nothing compared to the addictions we're talking about, but at least it'll give you an idea of what might be going on. Find a support group and ask that individual group, what do you need we can do? We'd like to provide meals at all of our meetings. There's an opportunity to help out. Sure, we need the prayer. We need the financial support. But we need the good words in the community, and we need your willingness to forgive, to put behind you and allow people to move forward. Don't be their stumbling block or their become a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block for them.
Wow, that's good. That's one of the things I love about this story, though, Randy, is you're one of the few people that I've met who is so active and involved in this battle, but you don't come from a background of substance use disorder. And to hear you talk about how we as a community can help people come back in, to be reconciled back into their churches, their Elks Club, the Rotary, whatever it is, to invite people back in, because where are these people going to go otherwise when this is all done? They become sober people who are now disconnected from their community if we can't do this right. So
yeah, and it's the old idea, you're either a part of the solution or you're a part of the problem. We can sit back and complain, and I will be honest and admit I probably had an attitude one time that wasn't as accepting and as understanding as my attitude is now. But I've always been of the belief I was never the best preacher. I certainly couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. I had no singing skills. I liked good music, and when I heard it, I knew it. I couldn't do this or that, but I could love my congregation as much as any pastor ever did. And I've always seen my congregation as the community, not the people inside a building. I've been blessed to have opportunities throughout the entirety of this county and some of the others around, and that's helped me move forward in a positive, caring way.
That's great. And as someone who is at home and they've been struggling to do the work of recovery at home, and maybe they've been a member of one of your chapters, or they're realizing, I need to become a member of one of these chapters, what would you advise them to do, especially while we're still having to deal with, phasing back into gathering?
Oh, wow, that's a big question, but certainly an important question. Our website is one option, other groups, and there are many good groups around, but go to our website at it is ablbh.org. Contact our office. Look up on the website. We have many online opportunities we can offer now. We've got like 16 or 17 of those to where you can get in on a Zoom meeting or something similar to that. And know that we're going to be here through the duration of COVID-19, and we're going to be a better us on the other side of it, because now we can become hybrid. We can have those face-to-face meetings, and we can have those Zoom kind of meetings. And so for those who aren't ready to step into the room, we can step into your living room and be there with you. And when you're ready to come for that support that's needed, that face-to-face, shoulder-to-shoulder some days support, we're here for you.
I think one of the most powerful parts of the video we watched that Eric Hartvig produced is when Jack Ronald from the Commercial Review says, years ago there was this other girl who was lost, and the whole community went looking for her, but she was lost in a different way. And when I think about the story of A Better Life, Brianna's Hope, I'm really drawn to it, obviously because it's my hometown, but also because it to me represents one of the bigger problems, which is we have thousands of families around our state who are mourning the loss of a loved one, and then they have to deal with this stigma and this judgment, and they don't even have their community to mourn with. They don't have their neighbors understanding, or perhaps their church or understanding, and they're forced to mourn in isolation and embarrassment. And to me, that's one of the biggest injustices. And when I think of something that we need in our state so bad, is that heart and that example we see from you and so many others who are saying, I may not have ever been a part of the recovery world, I'm stepping into it because it's my community, like you said. This is my church, it's my community.
Exactly. A bad choice doesn't make you a bad person. If it does, there's nobody good among us, okay, because we've all made that bad choice. It just has a tendency at times to cost people more individually than it may cost someone else. And I think it's just going to take that repeated awareness, caring. You don't have to understand a situation to care about the people involved. If we totally understood substance use disorder, we wouldn't be talking about it today. We'd have it cured, taken care of. But we're still in that battle. But it's that consistent effort and treating others just as you want to be treated. I've seen some folks that local society just didn't have much good to say about them. And I've seen them change their life and change the lives of others. And then there's almost an embarrassment on our part because somebody that I thought so little of has made such a great difference. What am I doing?
Well, Randy, thank you so much for your time and for what you have invested years and years of your life into to bring change to our state. Because as we always say, this is our story. It's our time. This is my community. This is my family. And I'm so grateful to the help and support that you've shown my family and my friends who have been struggling with addiction, whether it was opioid specific or alcohol or other things. It's just amazing that you've created a safe place for people to come as they are and to begin discovering what a better life looks like.
It's awesome. I feel like I've got more friends than I ever had, and they've changed from one season to another. But even at this ripe age that I'm at, to know I can drive through a community, and if I need help, I've got help there. I can just almost wave an ABLBH flag, and they're ready to step forward. So it's been meaningful to my wife and I. She's been an incredible support, kind of a background part of this. But without her support, I couldn't possibly be where I'm at. So, God gets the glory. My wife, Rose, gets the thanks. I get to meet great people.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
One thing you can expect in every episode of Our Story, Our Time online is music that is written for and from the recovery community. For tonight's episode, I wanted to share with you the studio recording of the song Friend that we released 2 years ago when we first started this initiative. Just like we talked about in tonight's episode, we want to be the kind of friends and family members who walk alongside those that we love when they're stuck. And don't miss next week as we travel to Greenfield, Indiana to learn about the landing. We'll see you next week. Maybe it's time to let go of what went wrong. Yeah, you've been here so long, just thinking it over. Oh, you've been here so long, maybe it's time to move along. Tell me where you wanna go from here. Oh, you have stayed, you've stayed here for a while. What kind of friend would I be? What kind of friend would I be? Tell me what kind of friend would I be if I never takes time to change, and then one day you'll never be the same. Yeah, you've been here so long, just thinking it over. Oh, you've been here so long. Maybe it's time to move along. Oh, you've been here so long, just thinking it over.